I'm afraid this is a breach of professional conduct, Marcus Chin said, his voice carrying that familiar tone of disappointment as he adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. The afternoon sun streaming through his corner office windows cast long shadows across the mahogany conference table where I sat, my hands folded tightly in my lap to stop them from trembling. After everything Sterling and Associates has invested in your development, Amelia, I find this concerning. My name is Amelia Rodriguez, and I'm 29 years old. For the past 5 years, I've been a senior financial analyst at Sterling and Associates, one of Seattle's most prestigious investment firms. In those 5 years, I've saved the company over $2.3 million through cost optimization strategies, led the team that secured our largest client in firm history, and earned my CFA certification on my own time and dime. But apparently, none of that mattered now. Marcus, I can explain, I began, but he held up a hand, his expression stern behind those glasses that always made him look more intimidating than his 5 feet 7 inches frame suggested. The security footage from the lobby shows you meeting with representatives from Blackstone Financial last Tuesday during your lunch break, he continued, sliding a printed email across the polished table. Care to explain why you're interviewing with our biggest competitor? The injustice of it hit me like a physical blow. 3 years. 3 consecutive years I'd sat in this same office, armed with market salary data, performance reviews that consistently rated me as exceptional, and concrete evidence of my value to the firm. 3 years of being told the budget was tight, that my contributions were valued but raises weren't possible right now, that I needed to be patient. Meanwhile, Marcus had approved a $40,000 increase for his golf buddy in accounting and hired his nephew as a junior analyst at a starting salary just $10,000 less than what I was making after 5 years. I took a deep breath, straightening my shoulders. I understand your concern, Marcus, but I've given this firm everything I have. I've worked weekends, missed family events, and consistently exceeded every metric you've set for me. When that dedication isn't reciprocated. Your badge access is terminated effective immediately, he interrupted, his tone suddenly cold. Security will escort you to clear out your desk. I'm disappointed, Amelia. I thought we could count on your loyalty. The word loyalty hung in the air like a challenge. After everything I'd sacrificed for Sterling and Associates, loyalty was what they questioned when I dared to explore my options elsewhere. The irony wasn't lost on me as I packed my desk items into a cardboard box while colleagues shot sympathetic glances my way. My personalized coffee mug with world's okayest analysts sat next to the small succulent I'd been nurturing for 3 years. Both seemed to mock me now. I joined Sterling and Associates straight from my MBA program at the University of Washington, bright-eyed and eager to prove myself in the competitive world of investment banking. The firm's reputation for developing talent and promoting from within had been a major draw. What they hadn't mentioned was that development apparently had an expiration date. The first 2 years had been everything I'd hoped for. I'd been assigned to high-profile clients, my recommendations had generated significant returns, and I'd earned respect from senior partners. When the global financial markets experienced volatility in year 3, I'd been the one who identified the hedging strategy that protected our biggest client's portfolio from a 15% loss. That's when I'd first approached Marcus about a raise. The market's still uncertain, he'd said, his fingers steepled in that way that made him look thoughtful but felt dismissive. Let's see how the next quarter plays out. The next quarter had been stellar. Our client retention rate hit 98%, and the portfolio strategies I developed were being adopted firm-wide. But when compensation review time came around, the story had changed. We're investing heavily in new technology systems, Marcus had explained. Perhaps next year will be more favorable. Year 2 of denials had come with a different excuse. The partnership is evaluating the salary structure across all departments. We need to be strategic about adjustments. By year 3, I'd stopped believing the excuses. That's when I'd updated my LinkedIn profile and started networking. What I hadn't expected was for Marcus to have connections at Blackstone Financial who'd report back on my interview. My phone buzzed as I loaded the cardboard box into my car. A text from Sarah, my closest friend at Sterling and fellow analyst, emergency meeting in conference room A. Marcus looks like he's about to have a coronary. I almost smiled. Almost. Instead, I drove home to my Capitol Hill apartment, placed the box on my kitchen counter, and stared at it. 5 years of my professional life reduced to a collection of desk accessories and a dyeing plant. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I recognized, but hadn't expected to hear from so soon. Amelia, This is Patricia Blackstone, the voice said when I answered. I heard about what happened at Sterling today. I'm sorry, that's not how professional transitions should be handled. Patricia Blackstone was the CEO of Blackstone Financial, and I'd interviewed with her just last Tuesday for a senior portfolio manager position. She was known for being direct, brilliant, and absolutely ruthless when it came to business. Thank you for calling, I managed, still processing the surreal nature of my day. I'd like to accelerate our timeline, she continued. Can you come in tomorrow at 10 a.m.? I have a proposition that might interest you. My heart started racing. Yes, I can be there. Excellent. And Amelia? Sometimes the best opportunities come from the most unexpected circumstances. After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped onto my small balcony. The Seattle skyline twinkled in the distance, and for the first time all day, I felt something other than anger or disappointment. I felt anticipation. Blackstone Financial's offices occupied the top 5 floors of the Columbia Center, offering breathtaking views of Elliott Bay and the Olympic Mountains. Everything about the space screamed modern efficiency, from the sleek glass conference rooms to the collaborative workspaces that buzzed with focused energy. Patricia Blackstone was waiting in her office when I arrived, her silver hair pulled back in a professional chignon, her navy suit impeccable. At 52, she commanded respect without demanding it, and I understood why Blackstone Financial had grown from a small boutique firm to Sterling's biggest competitor under her leadership. Amelia, she said, standing to shake my hand. Thank you for coming on such short notice. I appreciate the opportunity to meet again, I replied, settling into the chair across from her desk. She got straight to the point. I received an interesting call from someone at Sterling and Associates yesterday. They wanted to know about your interview with us. I kept my expression neutral, though my stomach tightened. I see. What they didn't know, Patricia continued, is that we'd already decided to extend you an offer. Your termination simply accelerated our timeline. She slid a folder across her desk. Director of Investment Strategy. You'd be building a new division focused on ESG investments, environmental, social, and governance portfolios. It's a growing market, and we need someone with your analytical skills and client relationship experience to lead it. I opened the folder and nearly gasped. The salary was 40% higher than what I'd been making at Sterling, more than I would have even dared to ask for in my raise requests. This is very generous, I said carefully. It's market rate for someone with your track record, Patricia corrected. Marcus Chen has been undervaluing talent for years. His loss is our gain. The offer letter sat on my kitchen table that evening, signed and ready to be submitted. I'd asked for the night to review it, though we both knew what my answer would be. But something Patricia had said stuck with me. Marcus had been undervaluing talent for years. I wondered how many other capable analysts had left Sterling because of his short-sighted approach to compensation. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, heard through the grapevine that the Meridian Holdings account is asking for you specifically. Marcus is in full panic mode. Meridian Holdings. The client I'd saved from that 15% loss 3 years ago. The same client whose portfolio had become the template for half of Sterling's investment strategies. I set down my wine glass and smiled. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. The email arrived at 9:17 a.m. on Thursday, exactly 1 week after Marcus had fired me. I hadn't orchestrated the timing, it was simply when Blackstone's legal team had finalized the paperwork and Patricia had approved the final details. The subject line was simple: Account Transition Meridian Holdings. I watched from my new office at Blackstone Financial as Patricia's assistant sent the message to Sterling and Associates. The content was professional, direct, and devastating. After careful consideration of our investment management needs, Meridian Holdings has decided to transition our portfolio to Blackstone Financial, effective immediately. This decision reflects our confidence in their ESG investment expertise and strategic vision. Please coordinate with Amelia Rodriguez, Director of Investment Strategy, for all transition materials. We appreciate our partnership and request all documents be transferred by end of business Friday. Meridian Holdings represented 25% of Sterling's assets under management. Losing them would be a significant blow to the firm's revenue and reputation. But that wasn't the only surprise. By noon, 2 more emails had been sent. Cascade Ventures and Pacific Northwest Trust, both clients I'd worked with extensively, had also announced their intention to move their portfolios to Blackstone Financial. I hadn't solicited these moves. I hadn't even known they were considering a change. But over the years, I'd built relationships with the decision-makers at these firms. They trusted my judgment, valued my insights, and when they learned I was no longer at Sterling, they'd reached out independently. Patricia knocked on my office door around 2 p.m., holding a cup of coffee and wearing a slight smile. "Interesting development," she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "I had no idea they were considering a move," I said honestly. "I believe you. But it speaks to something important. Client loyalty often follows talent, not institutions." She sipped her coffee thoughtfully. "Marcus Chen called me an hour ago. He sounded stressed." I could imagine. Losing 3 major clients in one day would trigger crisis management mode at any firm, but especially at Sterling, where client retention was supposedly their strongest asset. "What did he say?" "He wanted to know if we'd consider a partnership arrangement. Something about leveraging our respective strengths." Patricia's smile widened. "I told him we'd be happy to discuss it with his most talented analysts, should they be interested in joining our team." The beauty of it was that I hadn't needed to actively pursue revenge. I'd simply chosen to value myself when Sterling wouldn't, and the natural consequences of that decision had done the rest. The phone call came at 4:30 p.m. on Friday. I almost didn't answer the unknown number, but something made me pick up. "Amelia, this is Victoria Sterling, the founding partner's daughter and current managing partner. I'd met her exactly 3 times in 5 years, and she'd never called me directly." "Ms. Sterling," I said carefully, "I understand there have been some developments this week. I'd like to meet with you to discuss the situation." So Marcus had thrown himself on the sword, letting Victoria handle the damage control. Smart, considering the magnitude of the client losses. "I appreciate the call, but I've already begun my new position at Blackstone Financial." "I'm sure we can work something out," she pressed. "Compensation adjustments, title changes, perhaps a partnership track. Your value to Sterling has never been in question." The statement was so absurd I almost laughed. My value had been questioned for 3 consecutive years, quantified in denied raise requests and excuses about budget constraints. If my value was never in question, why was I consistently undercompensated? I asked. A pause. "There may have been communication issues at the management level. I'm committed to addressing those." "I appreciate that, but I'm not interested in returning. My new role offers opportunities for growth that align with my career goals. The clients who've moved to Blackstone, they're making a mistake. Sterling has the infrastructure and experience to serve them better." And there it was. The real reason for the call. Not concern for my career, but desperation about the client defections. "That's their decision to make," I said diplomatically. "I'm just focused on providing them with the best possible service in my new role." After hanging up, I stood at my new office window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The view from the 47th floor was spectacular, but the real satisfaction came from knowing I'd finally found my worth. Marcus had thought he was punishing me for disloyalty. Instead, he'd freed me to pursue opportunities that truly valued my contributions. 6 months later, I received a LinkedIn message from Tom, a former colleague at Sterling. The message was brief but telling. Heard Marcus got passed over for the promotion to regional director. Word is the client losses were a factor. Meanwhile, 3 more analysts have left for Blackstone since you moved. Coincidence? It wasn't coincidence. It was consequence. When leaders consistently undervalue talent, that talent eventually finds its way to competitors who appreciate it. When short-term thinking prioritizes cost-cutting over investment in people, the long-term results are predictable. My ESG division at Blackstone had grown to manage over $500 million in assets, with 2 of Sterling's former clients among our most satisfied investors. The team I'd built was small but exceptional, and Patricia had already hinted at additional expansion opportunities. I'd learned something valuable from my experience at Sterling. Loyalty is a two-way street. When it flows in only one direction, it becomes exploitation. When it's mutual, it becomes the foundation for remarkable success. The best revenge, I discovered, wasn't something you actively pursue. It was the natural result of finally valuing yourself when others wouldn't. Marcus had inadvertently given me a gift, the push I needed to find my true worth in the market. In seeking to punish me for exploring options, he'd forced me to discover just how valuable those options really were. Looking back, I realized that sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you professionally is actually the best thing in disguise. Getting fired from Sterling hadn't been the end of my career, it had been the beginning of the career I deserved. And that, perhaps, was the most satisfying revenge of all.